This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Horse Racing Show right here in SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. As always, I'm joined by, from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, how are we?
Hi, all good here.
Brilliant. We will make a wee start quickly. We'll touch on some kind of sad news that you wrote a terrific piece about this in the Daily Mail the other day about Laura Brooke. Obviously, tragic news. Just talk us through a bit about what happened and obviously what your thoughts were on it. Obviously, it's just a really sad blow to the horse racing world.
Lorna Brooke, tragic, fell on at Taunton on April the 8th. Quite well, it's a really kind of standard fall, to be honest. It's airlifted to hospital, had to be placed in induced coma, was stable, critical but stable for quite some time, and then died last Monday. It's just a really sad story and one that kind of does show the dangers that are involved in racing all the time. Even saw it with Ryan Moore at Sandown Friday. His horse shut the whip and he was unshipped. And they're galloping at 40 mile an hour. If there was any horse near him, it would have been an unavoidable incident. He might have had a really bad kick. Deaths are really rare in racing, fortunately enough. Safeties came on leaps and bounds, and it will continue to do so, but there are still dangers out there. I mean, there's only been now Lorna Brooks on the list. There's three deaths in British racecourses in the last 25 years, which sounds like nothing, really. But there were 4 female amateur deaths in 2019, and three in Australia and 1 in France. It's not entirely uncommon for it to happen, and the dangers are just there. I mean, falling, being the obvious one, obviously, and it also applies to horses as well. The Grand National's a lot safer, and the fences, but the long mile still lost his life. There was an incident at Airway Wetlands which delayed racing for an hour. Fortunately, he lost his life as well. So everyone involved, trainers, jockeys, owners, all know the risks of racing, and I think punters should as well, and they probably do. But if you're moaning about a lost $5 or $10 on a poorly judged ride or something like that, then there is a bigger picture out there that you should really look at 10-15 minutes later. So it was tragic. Our finest hour was Moonlone Lane in 2015, in a race that Rachel Blackmore was 4th in, for instance, and Katie Walsh, Nina Carberry were in behind. It was a 25-1 outsider at Fairyhouse. The trainer, I think, admitted that it had next to no chance, really. No one could really strike a bond with a horse, and somehow she managed it and got into a rhythm and won well. And then a few weeks later, she drives up from her base in the Welsh Borders to go up to Musselburgh for one ride, and it's lo and behold, it's Moonlone Lane, and it wins at 11-2 as well. 6 hours there, 6 hours back, and it's all worth it. So, and that summed up her enthusiasm, and she really was quite a star in the amateur ranks, quite very well respected. It was a mother-daughter operation, and they did quite well out of it, and it was something that she loved doing, but unfortunately had to pay the ultimate price at the end.
Yeah, definitely. We'll send our condolences to the family and friends of Lorna Brooke, but we'll move on to the kind of end of the jump season. Obviously, the weekend was at Sandown. We saw a couple of big results. Frodon, Grenadine all won. We saw the jockey champion Harry Skelton crowned, Paul Nicholls champion trainer. What were your takeaways for Sandown? Were you surprised with a few results?
There were a couple of surprises. Grenadine being the notable one, probably a lot missed in the radar. He was only 2 lengths behind in the champion chase. He was staying on in the 4th run down the outside. Maybe if he got a truer pace that day, he would have been closer. Because this was soundly run, mainly thanks to Altior bombing out from the front.
That was a shock, wasn't it? That was a shock of the week.
It was a shock to see the cheek pieces kind of enlightening him and showing that King Stan Vitash speed that Nicky Henderson hinted at. So there's still a little bit of life in him yet, but he was beaten and soundly beaten by the winner. But
what do we think?
It was an end of season race.
What do we think for next season? What do we think for next season? Do we see him going maybe back? Maybe trying a further trip again, or do we even see him going back at all? What's the chat? Do we think?
I think after that they'll take their time and consider keeping him for another season. At 12, it's not totally unknown. So whether you can keep him competitive at the top level would be the question. He plugged on quite well at Sandown as well. Once he was headed, it was never in doubt that he would be at least second. It'd be interesting what to see. I think the old debate of him stepping up and triple might arise again. But he showed quite smart early pace there, so they could easily keep him to 2 miles at the start of the season. So it really is open to a lot of question.
It was going to be very interesting as well. What did we think of Harry Skelton? How much does he deserve to be champion jockey?
Yeah, consistency over the year really won him the day. I mean, him and his trainer brother Dan Skelton, they've been operating 20-25% comfortably all season. And that's going to be enough to get you over the line. So yeah, fully deserved. He did come in for a little bit of criticism at Cheltenham, maybe committing a bit too soon in some of his rides there. But I think consistency over the year, going here, there, and everywhere and riding winners on a regular basis. The numbers don't lie, and he fully deserves it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great end to the jump season. But we're going to look at the end of the Irish jump season. We're going to look at Punchestown this week. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. We're hopefully going to have it out by the first race. We will look at all the big races over the week. We'll start off with today. We have the Champion Novices Hurdle. We've a right good duel between two Willie Mullins horses, Echoes and Rain at 5-6 and Blue Lord 11-8, 18-1 bar. Great first race. What are we thinking? I know you're a fan of Blue Lord, but Echoes and Rain really stood out to me. She was a really good performer the other day. What do we think?
Yeah, good race. Small but select. Both Echoes and Rain and Blue Lord have this tendency to race quite freely.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to come down to who settles the best that wins this. I think Echoes and Rain might have a bit too much speed for Blue Lord. The hurdle track over 2 miles there, it's quite tight, and it's sharper than a lot of people think it is. So if providing that she settles and gets a bit of cover under Patrick Mullins, I think Echoes and Rain is just about the right favourite. Getting this mare's allowance balances out the ratings quite nicely in her favour as well. Blue Lord might want a little bit further down the line. So yeah, I'd be slightly leaning towards Echoes and Rain in that. I think Duke Up could go out, make the running, and might actually run quite well. Ted Walsh.
Yeah.
It's about 20-1, but it really should be between the front two in the market. And I think Paul Town has picked Blue Lord, but I think Echoes and Rain might be the one.
I think Echoes and Rain as well. I think this could be a very interesting race. 5:25, we have another brilliant. There's 3 brilliant duels today, but we're going to look at the Champion Chase over 2 miles. Chacun Poursuit, obviously third in the Champion Chase at Cheltenham, and we have the Ryanair winner Allaho dropping down to 2 miles at 13-8. Nubinegra is an interesting one at 4-1, and we have 18-1 Barley's a first flow, Silas Emery, Castle Grace Paddy are all in this as well. But really, really fascinating here between Chacun Poursuit and Allaho.
Yeah, interesting move to drop Allaho back to 2 miles. And the Ryanair, he must have put him through quite a tough race there. Mm-hmm. To replicate that would be quite challenging, I think, over 2 miles. But it's certainly worth experimenting for. I have my doubts about it. I also have my doubts about him going right-handed as well. I don't think that'll suit him too much. We saw him in the fog in the John Durkin.
Yeah.
And he struggled. He made mistakes, and it was in the fog, and nobody could see it. But I just think the same thing might happen again at pace off the back of the Ryanair over 2 miles. I think he's the one at the 3 market leaders that I'd be avoiding personally.
It's the rubbish Shakan. Do we think? Obviously, it didn't finish strongly at Cheltenham. We know that's maybe been his weak point over the past couple of years, but I think you forgive him that. I think he obviously won a really good novice chase at Punchestown. He does like the track. I think probably Shakan Passoir just edges it for me here.
Yeah, he's back at the scene where he smashed up Defi de Soy quite convincingly. It's when he kind of burst onto the scene. It's difficult. People were blaming the hill, and people were blaming that he might have just been one of a few that Willie Mullins had that just ran a little bit below themselves.
Yeah.
Given that he's rated £5 higher than Nubia Negra, I think you have to partially incline to forgive his effort. There didn't seem too much excuse into it though. I mean, he travelled really well approaching the last, and then just petered out a little bit. I think they'll try and be a bit more forceful with him, maybe quite close up behind Allaho. That might help out Nubia Negra though in behind, if he is the one that's a little bit overpriced out of the 3. And going right-handed helps first flow, but the rain hasn't come for him, so I think I'd rule him out. Between Shaq and Poursois and Nubia Negra, I think Shaq and Poursois might be a bit more of his old self here, without this stiff finish that might catch him out.
Yeah, I think as well. I'm going to just edge Shakan Passoir. 6:30, we have an absolute thriller on paper. I didn't think we were going to get this clash until at least the Gold Cup next year, but we're going to see it. We're going to see Monkfish, the Brown Advisory winner, and Envoy Alen, who's been, apart from one fall, unbelievable so far. They're kind of roughly sharing favouritism over 3 miles, so Envoy Alen stepping up for the first time. I really think the decent ground will help Envoy Alen get the trip, and I think we're just going to see a duel. I think if we see a duel where it's they're neck and neck going to the last, I think we're in for a thriller. I can't split them, but I just think the decent ground might help Envoy Alen get the trip.
They are really hard to split. Envoy Alen will certainly get the trip. He's related to Overmart, who was a brilliant stayer. It's a Chiefly Park Gold Cup horse, isn't it? And that's the one that they bought. And we've seen Apotar go quite close. So in this year's renewal, so the Envoy Allen's a logical step. The concern about him though is that he was really buzzy at Cheltenham last time. He made a fairly novice mistake by his standards and fell. It's not the only time he's done that at Cheltenham, so maybe he doesn't like travelling too much. So in context of the Cheltenham Gold Cup, I'd be a bit wary of him regardless, because of that. That's why we like to see him travel over again at Kempton or something like that for the King George, just to see if something, this travelling pattern is something disrupts him. Maybe it's a change of yard that he's taking a little bit of time to acclimatise. You don't know. But back here, I do quite rate his chances. He'll certainly get the trip. I think Cole Reevy being here, and Monkfish, I think he can just sit in and stalk in behind and maybe pick both of them off and win by a length or so. This could be his day. He might be a wee bit fresher than Monkfish as well, who is a real tank and a superstar in his own right. You know, he has less questions to answer, and you could see in the face of it on the balance of form as well and what he's done in terms of completions, why Monkfish isn't odds on here.
I know.
And you can see why, but I just think a lot of people have this feeling that this will be Envoy Allen's day, and it might set up hopefully a good long-term battle between the pair. I
know it's the race I'm looking forward to the whole week. I can't wait, but I'm not going to say I prefer one to the other. If you were to ask me, put a gun to my head, I would just go for Envoy Alen. I just love Envoy Alen. But we'll move on to Wednesday. 5:20, we have the 3 mile novices hurdle. Albert Bartlett winner, Vanna Years 5-2, Galloping Deschamps 3-1, Statler Tell Me Something Girl 11-2, 15-2 Bar. Really good race. I'm really looking forward to this actually.
It is. Got the flat 8 as well, so it opens up the each way angle.
Yeah.
Interesting. Tell me something, girls. Here, she doesn't smack to me that she wants 3 miles right now.
No.
I thought she kind of benefited from a little bit of a pace collapse in the Novices hurdle, which is over 2, obviously. Maybe the sharper track, they're thinking 3 miles will suit, and it might be a bit of a weak race in their eyes, because I don't think Albert Bartlett looked overly strong.
No.
The Vanilli won, but I'm quite keen in Gallop on Deschamps. He was very good in the Albert Bartlett. Willie Mullins wins this with future staying types. He's almost favourite here. If he goes and proves himself in Grade 1 company here over 3 miles, I think he's probably your new default festival novice, the Brown Advisory Novice Chase favourite. I've been one that I've moaned about the value of Cheltenham 2022 markets since Cheltenham 2021 was over. But Galloping Deschamps, if you can still get the 25-1 that's available for the Brown Advisory Novices Chase, I think it might be worth taking.
Right, I'll give you a wee question. Do you want to guess my only Cheltenham bet so far for the festival in 2022?
I don't know, is it Colexios?
Well, I'll get 3 actually. I've actually got 3, but this is my first one I put on.
Yeah, I can see the logic, because I think out of all the markets, I think he's the only one at a price that can just dramatically shorten quite quickly.
There was something about him. There was something about him in that Martin Pipe where he just looked as if he wasn't for stopping.
No, he was cruising, and it's traditionally quite a strong race. And Willie Mullins has won it with Khalil Vic and Don Poli, stuff like that. Don Poli won an RSA, so
yeah,
I can certainly see the appeal. I think he's a solo bet for me for Cheltenham 2022, and I expect him to take this. I think he's the most progressive, the most exciting profile out of a lot of them. Tory Graf could run a little bit better than he did in the Bartlett. I think he's a better horse than that. If you're looking for one at a price, maybe.
I think you mentioned Streets of Doyen on here before. I think he could be better than he was at Cheltenham. I do think he's maybe been a bit up and down, but there is a talent in there, and I think he might. I think Galloping Deschamps will win. I think though Streets of Doyen could be better than he was at Cheltenham.
Yeah, he was well held at Aintree though as well.
Yeah,
he's danced every dance, hasn't he, since the spring. This might be just a bit too far from him. I don't think you could categorically rule out anything. Cross Hill of Jessica Hartons is gradually improving as well. And Tell Me Something Girl's an obvious chance if she gets 3 miles. So it's one of these open end of season novices that nothing really surprises you, and that's a theme in Punchestown sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. But I am going for one of the horses I'm following the most, Galloping Deschamps. I think Galloping Deschamps is good here. Set at 5:55, we have the Punchestown Gold Cup. Obviously, we heard yesterday the news about Manel Andel being ruled out with a foot injury. It's obviously kind of taking this race a wee bit, but Album Photo leads the market 11-8, Clandas Obo 3-1, Ken Boy 10-3, Fakir Duderiza in this at 6-1, which I find interesting, 8-1 Melon, 20-1 Easy Game. What do we think here? Because I've kind of toyed with this race. I know you've got a strong fancy here, but I'm struggling.
Yeah, I like Ken Boy in this. He won it 2 years ago. Beat Album Photo. Did it quite well. He's 2 from 2 over fences at Punchestown. Album Photo's not for 2. The ground is in his favour. It's not in Album Photo's favour. I think he'd prefer it softer. Clan de Obo's a funny horse to place. Visually, he looked good in the Aintree Bowl, but the race totally fell apart in behind. Nothing else ran its race at all. He was the winner a long way out. The positive thing about that is he's probably not had much of a race, and maybe these cheek pieces are working for him. So, and he's a 2-time King George winner. He seems to be back to that form, so he does deserve a little bit of respect. And the fact Paul Nicholls is coming over here is certainly a positive.
I think
I think he's a little bit of a threat, but again, I'm not entirely convinced by his finishing effort. And I think Ken Boy could dictate this race from the front again and win like he did in the Irish Gold Cup. He's 8 from 18 over chases. He's won a bet with Bowl where he thumped Clan de Obo
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago. Absolutely thumped him, and that's when he was a King George winner in his peak. So I don't understand why he's that totally disregarded. Maybe because he's run at Cheltenham, but everyone knows he doesn't like Cheltenham. So I think you could safely throw that out. To me, you can make a case for most of them, but he's the bet in it.
Yeah, I would probably go with you in that. Just I think he will get a bit a shorter field will help him. Interesting though, Alvin Folk, obviously you can't rule out 2-time Gold Cup winner. Actually ran a great race in the Gold Cup this year, but it's one where Manel Ando, I don't think I would have backed Manel Ando for this anyway. So yeah, I'll probably side with Kenboy just for you. But we'll move on to the 6:30, which is the Champion Flat race, the rematch that we saw between Kilcroot and Sir Gerhard. Interesting that Patrick Mullins chooses Sir Gerhard here.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a bit of gamesmanship involved, because the amateur crown between him and Jamie Codd is quite close. I was wondering if he picked Sir Gerhard just to keep Jamie Codd off it, and now Jamie Codd's in a 60-61 chance in the same race. I do think he's probably made the right decision, though. I expect Sir Gerhard to confirm the form. I think he might just be a little bit better than Kilcroot.
Kilcroot, I think, will be. Derek O'Connor's obviously on board. I don't like criticising jockeys, and I know Paul Townend did get a bit of criticism for his ride on Kilcroot, but I think he will be riding a lot more closer to the pace. I think he let Sir Gerhard have a big lead. I love Kilcroot. I'm going with Kilcroot here. I think he will reverse the form with Sir Gerhard, but this is another great race, and these are two horses we really need to follow for next year. Would you go along with that?
Definitely, yeah. I'm interested to see where the future holds trip-wise. I think both could probably get a lot further, but both can certainly hold their own at 2 miles for now. I just think Sir Gerhard is a little bit more professional in how he goes about things. So I think he might be a bit more forward, and expect him to just about confirm the bumper form of Cheltenham.
Brilliant. We'll move on to Thursday. We have the Champion Stairs Hurdle. The Stairs Hurdle winner at Cheltenham, Flooring Porter, leads the market 7-4. Sire de Belly 4-1. Beacon Edge 7s. Ronald Pump 8. Storyteller 8. 12-1 bar. Another interesting race, but I think Flooring Porter at 7-4 is a really good price here.
Yeah, I just think he's the best steer in the division at the moment, and he's only 6, and he just gets it done from the front. He has his quirks sometimes, and maybe the season will catch up with him, which is always a worry for Stairs. But he did completely break their hearts from the front in that Stairs Hurdle. I mean, at Aintree, those in behind ran really no sort of race. So there's a lot of it which is probably testament to what he achieved. I actually think he beat Time Hill, probably in the minority in that camp, but I think he's that good. I expect him to confirm form with Sire de Belly again. He's certainly the one to beat. Ronald Pump's interesting one, because I haven't seen him since the Hatton's Grace, but that half-length defeat to Honeysuckle looks really good form now, over 2.5 miles. This has been the long-term comeback target. His win record is a little bit worrying, though. So, I mean, I think they're the two that I would quite like to take out of the race. Yeah, a forecast of sorts might be played, but yeah, they look the two to be on. Beacon Edge could run well. Fury Roads could as well, I suppose. A little bit more unexposed, but yeah, I think Ronald Pump and Flooring Porter are the two to home in on, maybe.
Yeah, I fancy Flooring Porter. I think he's very good. We'll move on to the Rhino Novices Chase at 6:35 on the Thursday. Energamines entered. Are we excited to see him if he goes here?
Yeah, I'd expect him to turn up. Flat 8 again. He did have a setback, missed Cheltenham, tried to get him back for Fairyhouse. Willie Mullins said it would be unfair on the horse, so they gave him a bit more time to recover for this. It'll be 2-5 on, which isn't a price I'm quite keen to play on. Mainly because he's just come back from a setback. And the ground's still an unknown. It'd be good ground. It'd be on the quick side for sure. Who do you oppose him with is the question, or do you just sit back and watch? There is a racing captain Guineas somewhere down the line. wherever it'll be is a totally different question. It could be here. He has one round here. So is Embittered. Embittered has a handicap entry as well that he seems declared for. So maybe the Arkle was just too much of a tough race for him. I'd been inclined. I know there was criticism for that ride as well, but I'd be inclined to forgive it. He bled from the start and he bit through the rain, so he's obviously going to be keen. I don't think Rachel Blackmore could have done a lot with him that day. I think there is a performance in him that could hook it together. In the Irish Arkle, he was up almost upsides with him 2 out. He would have asked a question on ground that maybe was a bit too soft for him and ideal for Energumene. So maybe at the prices, a tentative play at Captain Guinness, but that would be dependent on Energumene not being fit. I'd be really interested in the future with Energumene to see what trip they run him at.
Yeah, I think that as well. He is
what happens in the
versatile,
future,
yeah.
because
You could even run him over 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, we don't really know what he can do. I wouldn't rule out Yanadil either. He might pick up the pieces as well. Yeah, it's certainly between those three, isn't it? It just depends what price is your limit with Energumene, really. Yeah,
definitely. I think it could be another fascinating one. We'll move on to Friday, where we have the champion hurdle. We see the return of Honeysuckle, which is 4 to 6. Epataunt's entered at 7 to 2. You've Aspire Tower, Sharjah, Goshen's even entered here, which I don't see happening. But Honeysuckle, I just every time she runs, I just want to watch her.
Yeah, and 4 to 6 isn't bad. Given our Cheltenham dominance, really. But Punchestown this track and quick ground. If there's a chance to beat her over 2 miles, it really should be here for this field. Bouverdaire won this 2 years ago for Nicky Henderson. He won it really easily.
Yeah.
And it was a really similar season preparation that Epataunt had that year. It was kind of flat. Fell at Cheltenham, obviously trying to regain champion hurdle crown, which Epataunt didn't do. Plugged on okay for third, but the feeling that Seven Barrows have just been behind the 8 ball with her all season, and she might spark into life here. I think this sharp 2 mile track will utilise her pace more than it is at Cheltenham, and if she drifts out further, I think she might be a tempting betting proposition, perhaps, in the mould Bouverdaire was 2 years ago. It's obviously a stronger race. There's no reason to suggest why Honeysuckle will really struggle here. But maybe at the tail end of the season, this is the time you could get these unbeaten favourites beaten. So, yeah, I just don't like playing odds on too much. I think if you like odds on, just to double up Honeysuckle and Energumene, the form case for both of them is clear as day. They should win. So maybe do that and have a save on one that you like outside of that.
I will be sitting watching Honeysuckle and just hoping she wins, because I think the sky's the limit with this one. This might be her last run over hurdles before she goes over fences.
Yeah, don't start me on that again. I hope it doesn't happen.
It's interesting though. There has been talk about it. I know
it is interesting, but it's not worth the risk for me. I think she's given her mould, her shape. I don't really see the appeal of it either. I mean, Henry de Bromhead has won the champion chase with a mare and put the kettle on, who's still in training and is practically the same age. So do you need two? Don't think you do. I don't think she'll get 3 miles, so it's not going to be a Gold Cup horse. I don't see the appeal of it. The mare's chase is the big one at Cheltenham's Grade 2, isn't it? So I don't see much point in that either. Yeah, if they do, they do. It's your horse at the end of the day, but it wouldn't be for me. I think Goshen is coming here as well.
That's interesting.
Right-handed suits, but he's a bit of a loon, isn't he? But he will set up the pace, and it'll be strongly run again. So tactically, it'll probably suit Honeysuckle as well. There should be enough of a pace to aim at for her, and her jumping is getting quicker and slicker all the time, which is akin to a 2 miler. Yeah, I just got a funny feeling that Epatort might run a huge race here, though.
It will be interesting, but we'll move on to the champion novices hurdle over 2 mile 4 furlong. This is interesting. I know Bob Ollinger's 4-9, and I absolutely love Bob Ollinger, but I appreciate it's was entered in the 2 mile today, as apparently all reports says he's going here. That suggests, I know Willie Mullins came out and said that they were aiming the Arkle for next year. This says to me that they're not. They're aiming for further over fences next year with this. What's your thoughts? It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see him personally this week.
Right.
I think it's a bit of bluster. I don't think there was a plan for him at all here. I think the season was going to end at Cheltenham. Yeah, I don't know what he'll do. He's bred for further, but he's shown all this form over 2 miles. So I think it's a case of he will certainly go over fences next year, and they'll keep him at 2 miles until there's evidence that whether he gets beat or there's clear evidence that he needs a step up and trip. I think they'll just play it as they did last season. Play it by ear in a way. I think it's probably that straightforward with him. I'd expect Bob Ollinger to win this. It's a similar race to. I think it's probably an easier race to the one he faced at Cheltenham, isn't it? He's odds on. He's 49, but he's surely gonna win, even though there might be a mishap. But I think he'll do it.
It was my first horse I tipped up for the festival. I love him, absolutely love him. Was probably when you look back, he was probably the most impressive winner at the festival. I just thought he was magnificent. I'm going for Bob Ollinger. I think he's at 4-9. I think he's probably short, but just expect him to win. Saturday we have 2 more races. We'll start off with the Mayor's Champion Hurdle. We'll start off with the 4-year-old hurdle. Calexios 13-8, Zanahiyr 15-8. I don't even know how you pronounce this. Hot En Kalua is 3-1. Is that the right pronunciation?
Hot En Kalua, yes.
Hot En Kalua at 3-1, 8-1 bar. Jeff Kidder's entered, St Sam's entered, but I'm all over Calexios if he goes.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to be, is there? I mean, he won the Triumph. He won it quite well. He had a bit more left in the tank. The Hot En Kalua came from kind of nowhere and got second. In terms of career progression anyway, so he might be the one that could take the biggest step forward, if you like. And Willie Mullins has an outstanding record in this. He might be the one. St Sam emerged as the best horse in the Boodles at the weights, and that form has been upheld by Jeff Kidder, who's won a Grade 2 since. So I don't think he's completely without a chance, but he's held an all known form behind Zanahiyr and Calexios. I still wouldn't give up on Zanahiyr. He didn't run his race at the Triumph, finished 4th. He was very keen at the start, and then he ran on again towards the end. I'm a bit concerned that they haven't found anything as to why that was the case. Was it maybe a breathing difficulty or something? Maybe didn't like the tongue tie. Maybe something was just slightly amiss, and he's over it now. But he's not really at a price where you want to give him a second chance, really, at 15-8, is he? But he could develop in a champion hurdler next year. He is that kind of horse. It's whether you can forgive him and you think that he could go back to his true self. Is the question. I'm not too sure.
Be very interesting. It's another really good race, but we'll finish up with the Mayor's Champion Hurdle. Concertista leads the market. Burning Victory's in here. Tell Me Something Girls obviously is still entered here, but all reports says she's going for the 3 miler. There's an interesting horse at 6-1. Now, I don't know if this is a typing error, but I'm pretty sure I saw that Lorena was retired. Why is she got an entry?
Yeah, she came back out of retirement. It's been training away in private all year.
Right, okay.
Paul Nichols in Ireland. Yeah, she's expected to turn up here as well.
I'm stunned. I am stunned at that. I honestly thought we wouldn't see this horse again.
She's back. I think there might have been a breeding or stirring issue. She has bled quite often.
Yeah.
When she was with Paul Nichols, I thought it's really hard to know what to expect of her, if anything. On her form, I mean, at Ascot, the Coral Hurdle was the last time we saw that. Was in November, where she burst a blood vessel. Song for Someone, Call Me Lord, beat her quite easily. Yeah, it's a good sign to see her back on track, but it's just going to take a huge leap of faith to back her, isn't it?
Right, let's run through the top of the market here. Concertista's obviously was second in the Mares Hurdle. Burning Victory we haven't seen since last year's festival. Are you surprised that she's going here?
No, at least she can get a run in there for the season. Yeah, I mean she's won her last two, but again, you just haven't seen her. You don't know enough, do you? So at the price of 72, wait and see what the market says. I'd be taking Concertista over her for sure.
Yeah, I think Concertista will win here. I think although I do still maintain Concertista perhaps was better over Shorter.
She might be. She jumped a bit sketchily at Cheltenham. I think she might have been one that was slightly below par as well for Willie Mullins there. Stormy Islands came back for Willie Mullins.
I wouldn't totally rule her out, actually.
She's probably the chief threat. Sky Ace is still somehow progressing quite well. Going into open company quicker than expected. Heaven help us is a good handicapper. Who's entitled to take a chance in these graded mares races now. So Black Tears do the same. She's done quite well out of it. Mares Hurdle winner last year. So yeah, there's plenty of options now for these mares and can run them in whatever they like. Open company or all these inclusive mares races. So it's wide open. I'd be leaning towards Concertista. I think this is an easier track to get the trip at. I expect a bit of a better performance as well from her. But Stormy Island will be a threat, particularly from the front. Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting. That was our look at the Punchestown Festival. We will move on to Newmarket, where on Saturday and Sunday we're going to see two massive races. The 2000 Guineas is on Saturday. I'll just get through the market quickly. A really good race on paper. Thunder Moon, Wembley, shift favouritism at 9-2. One Ruler 6-1. Mustabik at 13-2. St Mark's Ballista 7-1. And Master of the Seas 15-2. That looks a proper race. That really looks a stacked race.
Yeah, strong Guineas. Probably the stronger of the two.
Yeah.
Godolphin have two really good horses in it. Ballydoyle have 3 or 4. Battleground might not run by the whispers of things, and he's really weak in the exchanges, for instance. So I wouldn't expect him to make it. An exciting race. The one I've always liked for it, those Thunder Moon. Joseph O'Brien's. I do think he's a miler, and I think this quick ground will suit him. The Dewhurst 1, 2, 3 of St Mark's Basilica, Wembley, and Thunder Moon still looks the best form on offer, even from last year. So, yeah, I'd expect. I think the ground's a bit of a worry for St Mark's Basilica, and I think he was maybe a bit more forward than Wembley and Thunder Moon. So, I think those are the Wembley and Thunder Moon. I think are the right pair that are vying for favouritism, and probably a Godolphin horse will nick third, whether it's One Ruler or Master of the Seas. I don't know. Maybe Master of the Seas because William, you expect him.
I've got a strong fancy here, and you haven't mentioned him. Mustabik.
I know he's been supplemented, but he's
2 weeks ago though, it looked really. I thought he looked really, really good 2 weeks ago. Very impressive at Newmarket. It's interesting. I think it's interesting that he's here.
Yeah, it is. It's worth supplementing, but he beat Noble Distant. He beat Noble Distant. Noble Dynasty it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bit of a rogue, I think, anyway. Remember him in his Newmarket debut where he threw away an easy race against Modern News. Manek, absolutely shirked it for whatever reason. And it's also a conditioned race. There's a Group 1 form of the Dewhurst, where horses that are finishing well down the pack that are winning races like that. Not as impressively or as good as that. But I don't see the case for him at the price he is now. I mean, he beat Duke of Mantua, who's well beaten the Curragh by 33 to 1 shots, or Johnny Mutter. So I'm always wary as well of supplemented horses because it's not really been the plan from the start. They've not expected it. I don't think they've got the best record in the world either. So I'm a bit wary of him. I think he's too short.
I think this is a great race, though.
It's a very good race.
It's probably one of the strongest races.
It's a very good race, and he is entitled to be there for sure.
Yeah,
because visually he was impressive. Chinned it. Doesn't like the grounds. He doesn't like the track, that's for sure. So when he bombed out, and that was in the Dewhurst. I think he has a question to answer on that front. Van Gogh might be more of a derby type for Ballydoyle to expect, but he's played that card before in this race. He's won it. Remember, Saxon Warrior was meant to be a derby horse, but he won the Guineas instead.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Max Swinney won't like the grounds. Legion of Honour, big price. Not totally out of it for Roger Varian if he handles the track. It's a big step up in his education, but he'd be interested in military style as well. Aidan O'Brien, you've got all these Aidan O'Brien outsiders. Just don't dismiss them completely. He would be dangerous if he's left out in the front. Though he's got a lot to find, but he's quite good on his day. Naval Crown as well. He's got decent place form. Mystery Smiles of Andrew Balding's 100-1. But I know he's a really doubtful stayer, but he will travel with him. He's quite good. He will go quite well for a long way. He might be a more of a kind of Commonwealth Cup, Jersey Stakes, Royal Ascot type down the line. So even with beating horses, keep an eye out on them because there will be a lot of future races for them, particularly at Royal Ascot.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to this race. We'll move on to the Sunday where we have the 1,000 guineas with a really strong favourite here, Santa Barbara, 6-4 for Aidan O'Brien. Are you finding it hard to oppose her?
No, I find it really easy to oppose her.
Really?
I don't understand why a maiden is 6-4 favourite for the Guineas. She's won race, she's won it, and she's obviously clearly smart. She could be a superstar, but you're dealing in coods here. Yeah, and you are. I mean, 64. If she was 3-41, fine. Yeah, you can take a chance in a little bit of an unknown, but this is a big step into the unknown. She's going from a maiden into a Guineas straight away. Even though visually impressive it was, her connections, how well bred she is, it's form. It's just not on the level. Pretty Gorgeous is 4-1.
Yeah, I've probably settled in Pretty Gorgeous. Actually,
one course and distance.
Yeah,
and the form's worked out fairly well in behind. She was favourite that day. She was hampered quite badly throughout it as well. She won quite well. She's open to further progress on better ground as well. She is an RPR of 128 and Santa Barbara is an RPR of 105. I know she is obviously going to improve massively, but I mean 64-13-8, no interest to me at all.
Do we think though it's because of it's just a classic?
It's a Ballydoyle factor.
Yeah, it's the hype. It's a hype. Yeah,
it is. It totally is. And it might be justified. But it's not for me. Fev Rover of Richard Fahey is one that I quite like as well at 20-1. She was quite good. Duke of Cambridge at Newmarket in July, beaten by Dandala, short head. She was 28-1 that day. She was quite unlucky. She won at Deauville quite well in a Group 2. Beat the likes of No Speak Alexander, stuff like that. That was on very soft ground. She received a bad bump. It was a really rough race. Same thing happened in Longchamp in the Prix-Marcel Boussac. Tiger Tanaka won that, but she went off favourite, but bumped out, no clear run, hampered. Didn't go quite well. A stiff mile at Newmarket on firmer ground would suit her, I think. I think at 20-1 she's been a little bit overlooked because her 2-year-old form is fairly decent. She's quite a robust filly, uncomplicated. She won once in France, even with bad luck. And the second time it didn't quite go right for her. Ground that was an absolute bog. This will suit her. 20-1. She might have a good chance of placing Richard Fahey's start of the season quite well.
Yeah, I'm probably just leaning towards Pretty Gorgeous. We know we won this race last year. Do we see anything in here that could be potentially as good as Love?
Yeah, Santa Barbara could be. Aidan Bryan's raving about her, obviously, but we've only seen her once, so she's obviously open to probably the most progressive because she's completely unexposed and she's still a very warm order and favourite for this. I think it'd be more significant if it was just her that was in it for Aidan O'Brien. If Mother Earth doesn't turn up or Snowfall doesn't turn up, I think that'd be quite. It would be quite significant because when Love won it last year, she was the only Ballidoyle representative, so it was quite clear and obvious in hindsight. It's a little bit disappointing. Snow Lantern's not here. I would have liked to have seen her in here, but they're swerving it for, I think, maybe an assignment in York and then to the Oaks. I think that she'll get a little bit further. I think she's really professional. I think she's very good. I think she's got a bright future. I think there'll be plenty of these, maybe alcohol-free, maybe over shorter. Sacred as well. Won quite well, but I'm not quite sure the form of those two races this season in the trials were up to standard. So, and Saffron Beach is coming in for a little bit of support. I think she'll improve for a mile. She does have a little bit to find though, so there's always plenty. Even the also runs near the bottom there. You can look out for them in the likes of Grade 3 or listed company further down the line.
Yeah, definitely. We've been through a lot of races, obviously some big ones, but is there anything kind of we haven't mentioned that you fancy from either Punchestown or Newmarket to keep an eye on? Is there anything caught your eye for the week?
There is one other that I'd give quite a good name to. The Jockey Club at Newmarket. This is on Saturday, just before the Guineas. Al Zarquan of William Haggis's might beat Pile Driver at Newmarket. I think he's a really progressive horse. Over the all-weather, he's won 3 races, turned from a maiden into a horse that's now rated 107. He was good at Kempton, beat a horse called Almagua of John Thady Gosens that went right up in trip recently and only just get touched off in quite a good race. And he's favourite for the Chester Cup now, so there's a bit of substance to that form. I think Al Zarquan could go quite a long ways. He's a really powerful traveller. I think he's potentially talented. He's a kind of late bloomer for 4-year-old that William Haggis likes to excel in. And William Haggis is 11 for 36 in the last 2 weeks. So he started the season quite well at 31% strike rate. And Tom Marquand's back from Australia on the top of the world, it seems. So I think there's a lot to like with him. Definitely,
brilliant. But that was our look at this week's racing. I just want to thank Calum as always for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure as always. Really brilliant.
Good. Enjoy the racing this week, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.